What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to another episode of Rocket Vlogs. I forgot my lighting, but we are back in my parents' garage, and it's 10:30 on day 2 of Buildcember, and I haven't built a rocket yet. I'm severely lagging behind, but today we're going to at least get started on a remedy for that. This is a kit I've been pretty excited to build because I've long wanted a really big version of this rocket, and I've actually been sitting on this one for a couple of months now. If the fin shape doesn't give it away, then I guess the title of the video probably will. Today we're building an 8-inch diameter all fiberglass V2, or at least we're gonna start to build one. This build's a little bit weirder because it kind of requires some construction techniques that seem a little bit backwards, in that pieces of it go together before other pieces that would be kind of the traditional path taken in building a high-powered rocket. So yeah, grab yourself a drink, sit back, and let's get Buildcember started off right with a big 8-inch V2. Alright, as is typical with me doing a fiberglass build, you're gonna find some denatured alcohol on the table, to many people's dismay, or at least a few, CA, and I actually used to use 60 and 80 grit sandpaper, but when I started building my minimum diameter, I started reading up a good bit on composite bonding and research done by people who are a lot smarter than me and have a lot more experience than me. And they seem to consistently tell the tale that between 150 and 200 grit sandpaper is the butter zone for proper adhesion without digging into the fiberglass cloth or, you know, messing with the actual structural integrity of the part. So we have some 180 grit sandpaper, and that's just fine with me. Now, before we get too far into this, and I'd love to get a motor for this case for this rocket eventually, but they're very expensive, and I not trying to show off or anything, but I got something that I'm very, very excited about. When I was growing up, when I was really into rocketry, I used to ride my bike or scooter down to Hobbytown, and they used to carry like extreme rocketry magazines, sport rocketry and stuff like that. And my teenage years were when I was easily most impressionable in rocketry world, and there's two names that you definitely knew if you were into rockets in the early 2000s, and that is Dirk and Eric Gates. Now, if you go back to my LDRS videos, we talked with Bryce, who's now the current owner of the Gates Brothers rocketry estate. You'll be able to see some of the stuff that they did. They did 12-inch rockets, always flying on crazy clusters, and they even did, at one point, I believe, a P and 6 Aerotech N4800s in Porthos too. They were the guys that everybody knew, them and, you know, Hillbilly Rocketry and Team Numb and all these crazy people doing crazy stuff. But the Gates Brothers were always super important to me in the rocketry world, and especially because I was a huge science nerd as a teenager. Could have figured that out, right? Even preteen, probably 9 or 10 is probably when Mythbusters started, and big Mythbusters fan, so Eric Gates partaking on that show was a very big deal for me, a big inspiration. And unfortunately, as I'm sure many of you guys are aware, Eric Gates passed away, I want to say in 2008, because I believe it was the same year Paul Robinson of Animal Motor Works passed away, who was another person of my admiration, especially because of the M2200 skid mark, which was planned to be my level 3 motor for a long time. But at any rate, I had an opportunity to buy something very special to me, and I bought it. So that was one of my primary reasons for being at Rockstock in California, was I didn't buy it from Bryce, but Bryce, coincidentally enough, wound up being my my transport for this item and a few other items that I bought, because the person who sold them to me is a friend of his, and that's actually how he wound up with this piece of rocketry history. So thank you, Bryce, very much for transporting it. I'm super glad to have him. We're gonna do great things with it. But this is a Dr. Rocket 98 10240. That's the 4-grain case. M1939, M750, M2500, a staple of the Gates Brothers flights, actually, the M2500. And this is a Gates Brothers rocketry case. It says Gates Brothers Rocketry and gbrocketry.com on the side. I'll get a close pan here in a second so you guys can take a look at that while I'm talking about it. But It's dirty. I love it. It's definitely, you know, it's used. It's a used case. It was flown, maybe in the Jayhawk, maybe in the Sumo, who knows? But yeah, this is exciting for me because when I got in high power, it was right after Dr. Rocket closed, so I have a big affinity for the Dr. Rocket cases because I could never buy them new, and I like things that I can't have. So rare stuff I really enjoy having, and that's why I have a bunch of Dr. Rocket hardware as well. But this takes the cake. This is by far my favorite piece of Rocket memorabilia that I own. I am supposed to be buying another piece of crazy Rocket memorabilia too, but I still have to work out some details with the current owner of it. But needless to say, it would be kind of disrespectful not to fly this case, but in an effort to really live up to what the Gates brothers inspired in me, and of course my friend Taylor of the Anti-Gravity Group, the owner of the other 5-inch Punisher. There might be more now actually, but Taylor has the other of the original two that we had Tim make. He flew his on an M1939 at Airfest. Unfortunately I missed it because the camera was being kind of a pain, but we have ordered a motor for this case, and we're doing a flight that kind of pays homage to the Gates brothers in a way that we never probably imagined we'd be doing when we were teenagers, but we are going to do it, and I'm not going to give away too many details just yet. There are details on it on my Patreon. The full build spec, in fact, is on Patreon, should you be so interested to find out more. But let's just say the Iris was a big rocket, and what we're building is going to make it look relatively small, and this is not the only motor that will be powering it. And the plan, as long as all goes well, is it's going to fly at Airfest 2022. So with that being said, I just wanted to give you guys some insight on what's coming and show you my new favorite thing on the planet, this Gates Brothers Dr. Rocket 98-10-240 case. And yeah, so let's get back to the V2, huh? Alright, as usual, we're gonna sand all of our bonding surfaces first. And while I'm sanding, I'm gonna talk to you about this rocket. So what's different about this rocket from most rockets that I build is it's obviously very stubby, and it has a tail cone, which I don't think I've ever built a rocket with a tail cone before. So the motor tube assembly is a little bit funky in that the top centering ring goes in the airframe, but the bottom centering ring doesn't. It goes at the bottom of the tail cone, which means that this will probably be the easiest rocket I've ever built in terms of doing internal fillets, because what we're gonna do is glue the centering ring in place, let it cure properly, obviously. Then we're going to drop it into the tail cone and glue it into the tail cone, and then glue the fins to the motor tube as you would usually. However, because it's not going to be in the airframe, it's just going to be its own little tail cone assembly. That means the whole top is open for me to reach in there in an 8-inch rocket, which is plenty. Do internal fillets by hand. No injecting them, no pulling the back ring off and carefully scrounging some stuff in there like I did on my Big Red Max, which somebody actually asked about recently. That will be getting done. It's part of Build-Cember. That really just needs fillets. That's also assuming I can find spray paint, which if you build high power rockets, I'm sure you're well aware, you can't find any of that anywhere right now. If you watched my Build-Cember introduction video, you'll see that I already have a motor for this rocket. It will be its first flight. The plan is for it to be at LDRS 40 in Brothers, Oregon. That's in July in Brothers, Oregon. You should definitely come if you have the means. David Chance is his name. He had a 7.5-inch Smokin' Rockets Honest John, and it was my favorite thing ever. He painted it pink and yellow and green, I believe, and it had flowers all over it. He called it Buttercup, which I thought was, you know, just like a perfect, you know, the Honest Johns are developed to carry nuclear warheads, so it's a very good, opposite end of the spectrum type thing. So I'm drawing some influence from that for the V2. The V2 is going to be painted pink and yellow, again, assuming I can find paint. The The plan initially is to do a traditional V2 paint job, but pink and yellow, but we might change it up, we'll see. But I, for that reason, purchased a CTI M1675 pink, which is a 5-grain motor with 2 red grains, 2 red grains and 3 blue. And it actually burns a lot more purple than red, which is great for me because purple is my favorite color. And yeah, it's gonna be pretty sick. So I'm gonna cut the camera in an effort to save battery. You've seen me sand fins before. I'm just gonna sand the whole surface of the fin where there's going to be fillets, and of course the joint where it's going to meet the motor tube. For some reason I was under the impression that this tube came up higher than this and this top centering ring went in the airframe, but that's not the case. So I'm going to show you the trick for making sure your tube's lined up in the proper place, and we're going to glue the bottom ring in place with CA and then make it so you can pull this ring back out. What would have been nice is if I had some U-bolts in there, but the hardware stores were all closed by the time I got over here, and Walmart doesn't have U-bolts, so we're going to have to use a different method, because then I could have just grabbed that. But are you ready for Buildcember, Dad?
Heck yeah.
I'm excited to build the Saturn. That thing's been sitting way too long. We ordered a K185 for it. Oh yeah, that's the other thing I didn't talk about in that video. We also ordered a motor to finally fly the Ultimate Darkstar. We got a M1550 on the way.
That'll be fun. We
thought about doing the N3300, but realized we were already getting way up there in price, so toned it down a tad. As cool as that'd be, maybe next year.
Yeah.
Or not next year, but 2023. Start planning out motor purchases 2 years in advance. But yeah, so I went ahead and got the rear ring in place. Sorry you missed that. I was sanding and just wanted this to be dry by the time I was done sanding. Alright, so I sanded the inside of our boat tail where the bottom ring is going to be glued. You can probably see that this is still wet. I did have all these soaking before I started building it, so I could make sure they were all nice and clean. I just sanded the inside of this ring too, so it'll fit on the tube easily. So here's the technique for getting it back out, assuming this works. So we're making ourselves little tape handles. This is, again, another trick I pulled from the books of Crazy Jim. So if you're watching this, Jim, just know, through all those years, I was indeed listening. And I hope I get to see you at a launch soon. Hope you're feeling better lately. Theory, I should slide on over that still. Yep, nice and easy. These rings do feel a little bit loose, but that's not that big of a deal. With our good gap filling CA there. I'm gonna do a dry test run here just to be sure. This winds up putting this mount like right, probably about 1/8 of an inch from the bottom, which is pretty awesome for the aero pack. Honestly, that's going to be a really good fit. And there you go, just like that. That'll keep us lined up so we can glue that bottom ring in place. And then once it's dry, we just grab our tape handles. In theory, well, I put it down a little too tight. I got greedy. Alright, this is going to be a trick. I'll get back to you. Alright, that plan is not going to work, so we're just going to go for broke. I think that ring is loose enough that once it's dry, I'm not going to have much of an issue getting it back out. Might be a little bit of a struggle, but we'll live. So, we're going to get our CA rolling. This is a pretty thick CA. Wriggle it down just a little bit so it doesn't start dripping out immediately. And in she goes. So now I know what you're thinking, why even put the top ring in there if it's going to have to come back out, but it's so that we can ensure our motor tube is aligned properly. All right, while that's drying, I'm gonna go ahead and start sanding the tail cone surfaces where the fins will be mating, and get back to you. Okay, so I just test fit all 4 of the fins at once, and they all consistently have about a 1/4 inch gap on both the upper and lower edges after where they should be meeting against the boat tail. So, being that it's consistent, I can't assume that it's for a kit with a smaller motor mount or anything like that, because, you know, 1/4 inch wouldn't make up the difference from going to 98 to 75, and also they don't make it with a 75. But so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to glue them in, and with our beefy carbon internal fillets and of course West Systems epoxy external fillets, it's not probably going to be an issue, but a little bit annoying. I just don't want to go through the process of trying to hack off a 1/4 inch of each of the fin tabs for the sake of trying to get them flat and, you know, make a mistake and not be able to get parts for the thing and get it built. So we'll work around it, and it's still going to be plenty strong by the time we're finished with it. I'm not worried about it, but if you're wondering why there's a 1/4 inch gap on all the fins, it's because that is as far in as they'll go. See, the trick with the CA on composites is it is fine, but you have to be careful about it. For one, obviously it dries very quickly, but there is a way around that to some extent. You can put it in, and you get it lined up where you want it. And once it's straight, you apply pressure down. You hold it where you need it, keep it straight. Right about there. A tad. Pretty good. Okay, now those are both in place. So what I'm going to do is let those set up a little bit, and then now that we have 2 fins in, we know our motor tube, especially with the rear ring glued in place, is where we need it to be, all the way up to the top. So what we're going to do is take a screwdriver or just something long and pokey, and we're going to, after these dry a little bit more, tap that back or that upper centering ring from the back side, push her out, and then glue the other 2 fins in. Alright, we got 2 of them fins glued on. The upper ring, some of the super glue from one of the fins ran down to it, so it was glued in. But we stuck this ruler into the fin slot, popped it off. Wear gloves when you use super glue. This is a lesson I learn every single time I touch it. I should stop calling it super glue because that's just adding fuel to the fire. It is what it is. Super glue is CA. It's a little bit different than just, you know, getting some dollar store crazy glue on the fins, though.
Nobody wants to say the full name of it because it's too hard to pronounce and it's always wrong.
Bob Smith Industries Cyanoacrylate. There you go. I was telling him the trick is the CA. You get it where you want it. You know, you gotta hurry a little bit. Once you have it there, push down, and it's pretty much instantly done.
Yeah,
and then
corner to corner if you want.
12 inches almost exactly. Okay, 11 and a half. Pretty dang close to 11 and a half.
Yeah.
I guess it's, yeah, wow, that's really messing with me.
Optical illusion.
Like looking inside it looks like it's like, that's what, I guess that explains why from the back it looks fine. All right, one concerning part about this kit is, like I said, it's a boat tail. The piece to glue the boat tail into the airframe is very short. You know, the general rule of thumb is half the body tube diameter for a coupler, And I've definitely bent that rule a fair bit, but never that much, I don't think. It's
slightly less than.
We're gonna throw a lot of epoxy at that, cause these are big rocket. That's really concerning to me. It makes me, how much coupler we got up there? Not enough to cut it and, I mean, honestly, probably enough to cut it and have a bigger piece than that. Just do some carbon fiber on the inside to make one longer one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, even if you had just this much again.
Right.
You got that much going in.
I guess it kind of depends on where that top ring's at, because I would put that top ring pretty close to flush. No, that's not gonna, no. Oh, can't get that again now. Oopsie.
Oh yeah, you can kind of put that. No, you can't. Fins are in the way.
Hold on.
Never mind.
Technical difficulties.
There we go.
That's why I didn't push it down, but I forgot there's still no way to grab it because I don't have any U-bolts. Thanks, Home Depot. Alright guys, well, that is going to be as far as we get on the first Build-Sember video. I kind of just want to keep pumping out videos as I get things done, like as long as something of substance happens. Obviously, if I didn't have all the fins glued on and ready to start looking like a rocket, it would have been kind of lame to just sit here for 20 minutes and sand stuff and be like, thanks for watching. But yeah, CA's all dry. Look at that, standing on itself, not breaking that weak little glue. I'm never gonna let that down. So obviously we have to stand it up and make it a whole big giant V2. So let's do that over there. Ooh. Is that close to center at least?
Yeah.
It makes me so happy that this is the entire airframe tube. It's so goofy. And it also makes me happy that it's got electronics bay ring so it can be head and dual deploy. I love it. It's so cool. Yeah, that's awesome. That's the appropriate size V2. I'm glad I waited this long to have one because this is my first V2 and this is, like I said, I could fly down a 4-grain M and it's not going to go over 10,000 because Gary Tortora flew one on M1939 or 1297 and it only went like 8,300 feet. But this will fit in my Fiesta, probably assembled, so I can just slide it in my car and get 34 miles per gallon on the way to a rocket launch. So, it's probably going to be just light enough you could get away with a big K too. Maybe like a K1275 for sure, but yeah, this thing's great. This is like a L motor eating machine, but when you're lazy and don't want to go walk to pick up after an L motor flight. I bet a small, or like the K1000, 75 K1000, probably only go like 3,000 feet, if even that. What's your Stinger sim to?
On what?
The K1000? Like 6?
65, I think.
Yeah, you could probably kick this thing to like 3,000 feet with a K1000. It'd be sweet. So, welcome to Build-Sember. Officially, guys, I am building a rocket tomorrow night, but it's for the Wildman channel, so it won't be here. Maybe I'll do like a behind-the-scenes kind of thing, because it's going to be, you know, instruction-based video. It'll be pretty quick. But yeah, don't forget to subscribe. We're almost at 10,000 subscribers. Somebody's winning that AMW White Wolf kit. We just got to get to 10K first. And oh yeah, I launched new shirts. I ordered you either a shirt or a beer glass. They just say, just keep building rockets in like candy cane, and it says hashtag Build-Sember at the bottom.
Nice.
So I ordered one of the shirts and one of the glasses so you can pour yourself an adult beverage or you can wear yourself an adult size t-shirt. Just go to rocketvlogs.com if you want to buy one of those and help me out. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.